I wanted to give you a little update here. It's been a little while since I posted a video. Here's where I stand right now. I've got the finish all done. It's looking pretty good. And I have rebuilt the whole button assembly on the front. So I had to tear this all apart, which if you have to do one of these is you have to be really careful because there's not as much steel holding this together as I thought there would be. Each one of these button assemblies has some metal that you're bolted into, but these plastic ones also give some rigidity to this. And so what I was really afraid of is that I might tweak it a little bit and break one of these. So I was super careful. There's about 200 screws on this that you have to undo to get it under, both on the top and the bottom. And then it all comes apart. And I went through and washed every single little part in there. So now it's pretty clean. I need to go back and buff this all up and make it look nice. And I put it together one time, and I left a gap that started showing up on this side, and then nothing really fit correctly. So what I found was I had to come and tear it all apart again. Had to do it super carefully, but what I found was that worked best was to screw in this middle piece. There's 4 screws on top and bottom going into this metal pieces that are in this inside behind this plate. So I put those in, and then I started working out from there and was able to make sure that there was no gap. Once I did that, it fit real nicely. So my next step is I'm going to go ahead and route all the wires. I had to take those and clean them all up. And there was a few parts that needed some resoldering in the back, but it's all very straightforward. And I think it looks pretty good. I have one wire I have to replace, but I can do that now in place. So that's going on there. I just have some material on here to save it from anything I might drop on it. And I've gotten also this face done here. I went ahead and cleaned all those up really nicely. And once I get these wires in, then I'm going ahead and mount the junction box in there and test them and make sure that I'm getting continuity and everything before I go too far, in case I got to rip these buttons back out and fix one of them. But anyway, I think it's looking pretty good. All right, you guys have a nice July 4th weekend. It's another day later now, and I have started getting everything, all the innards put into the cabinet. So I got the junction box, I rewired that, so I've got a couple of wires replaced. And I went ahead and made this switch a master switch, so not only will it de-energize all the AC, which it did before, but it also de-energize the DC too. So upstream of the rectifier is this switch, so the DC is cut there. And I also grounded out this junction box, so right on top you can see in here, maybe you can see it right back in there, I put a new screw on, and then on the back of that I ground out the power plug to it, so that way maybe a little bit safer than it used to be. And okay, so you can see all the wiring harness. It kind of looks like a rat's nest right now, but it does make some sense. It leads up to the back of the switch panel. So there are the switches. So I rebuilt that, and all the wiring and everything has been checked, and it seems to be pretty good. I had to replace a little bit, but not too much. And then these two, I think, are for remote boxes, so you could go ahead and take these funky like J connectors and fit them in there, and then have, back behind the bar or whatever, you could say, hey, I want you to play 17, or you might have like a remote box where you can put money into. So anyway, that's for that. I probably won't use it, but it is interesting. All you need to do is just jumper any one of these. So like this connection right here, I'm not showing it very well, but all I'd have to do is just take a piece of wire or something and just short that across there, and it would cue up the song to play, just like pressing the switch up above. So, and all these relate to different records that you could play. And then, so these will go up into the bottom of the assembly that actually plays the switches, then play the albums. So those will connect into there, and I have a pretty good idea of where those go. I'll probably have to do some playing around, but I can do that with a multimeter to figure out exactly which goes to where. And then over here, I'm getting ready. This is the increment unit for playing songs. So when you go ahead and put money into the register, it increments this wheel right here, and that keeps track of how many plays you have. And as this plays it, it decrements that wheel until it gets down to 0, and then as people put money in, it increments it. So I always thought that was a really fantastic idea. And so that will mount right here into this box right here. You notice it has, I'm sorry, I'm not showing you very well. It has some very interesting floating connections here, because I bet you that makes a pretty good sound, a pretty good click when it either increments or decrements. And so probably that is a little bit of sound isolation from the rest of this. If you didn't have it, it'd probably be like pop every time somebody did something. So I might even supplement those with a little bit more foam or something to try and keep that sound down. But we'll see. So you see, once that goes up here, I have one connection that goes into this side, and that will be for the selector light up above. It's back behind. You can see that right there. There's the selector light. So it'll say that there's something to be played. And it also, I believe, will tell this unit to go ahead and decrement because something was played. So it does both of those. And then over here, this cord that's back here, this leads to the register in front, and we'll go up through that hole and slink across, and it goes to this side of this unit. And that will provide I think the box provides power to it, and it then gives a signal back every time somebody puts money in, and it should increment the play. So those are where those two connections go to. And there's one other funky one here. Oh, this one provides, this power is coming off the junction box over here, and it provides power to this main bale assembly, which is actually sitting right here. It will go into that box over on that side. So that right on the right-hand side. Sorry, my garage is so messy. That will go into there. And it will be mounted right on top of this area. And I did test fit that, and it all fits really nicely and floats nicely, so I think that's going to work out well. And then I think what I'll have to do after that, almost the last part, well, there's a lot still, but to actually try everything out and kind of figure out what's working, what's not, is I'm going to have to route new power cords, because like here's one of them right here. This one is for the lights up in the overhead assembly. There's a light that goes across, and that cord got really bad, so it had been chewed on by some mouse or something. And so I'm going to replace those, and what I'm going to just use is some regular, pretty good extension cords, and they all plug into here and then just route to whatever part of the unit needs the power. So that you notice there are, so this goes to the wall box, light, the amplifier. So the amplifier still needs to go. I think it goes right here. I've got it all ready, so it'll plug into here. I just need to get a new power cord on it. Another light, another light, another light. So 4 lights, and I believe this light stays on whenever the unit is off, but there's still power going to the board, so that's why it's it's on a different circuit. You can turn it all off, or you can have the lights on. And then let's see. Oh, and then there's a remote cancel switch, so I've got one of those. You could have a back behind the bar or whatever. You could click a button and it would cancel whatever's playing and return it back to its normal operation with that. So we're starting to get close, and this looks like, I don't know exactly, but I believe this whole wiring harness gets screwed to the top right like that. And so it kind of snakes its way across. But before I put that in, I've got to kind of do a little more research. Oh, and then obviously the speaker goes right there. And that is all rebuilt and ready to go. So we are in good shape. Cooking with fire.